Welcome to another episode of the Thank You Surfing Podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by
Brightbox, marketing for design, architecture, and hospitality. IMAME Capital, experts in revitalizing Miami's urban multifamily real estate. And Team Key Aquatics, fostering growth and excellence in aquatic sports.
All right. Welcome to Thank You Surfing's Talk Story, Season 3, live from Zonte, El Salvador. First time going international. Stoked to be here. We've got dogs, we've got people, we've got music, we got a pop-up shop. It's all happening here in El Zonte. I got a couple of special friends here today, and they're joining me right now. First time on the podcast. We got Pollo and Pablo. If you guys would just introduce yourselves. You guys have an organization, you guys have a hotel, you guys have businesses. Let the people know what's up.
Okay, Pollo here. I have Tropical Freaks, which is like a surf account in El Salvador. It's been running for like 10, 12 years. But yeah, probably like documenting surf for a while, so yeah.
Yeah, you're a perfect guest for this. It's exactly what we're here to do.
Thanks, Brad. My name is Pablo. I'm Salvadorian, and I have a hotel here for surfing and adventures. It's been up and running for 6 years. Stoked to be here.
Stoked. Okay, so we're at an event that we all put together called Pescaito Frito, and it's really to get everybody together and get stoked on weird surfboards. And that's the latest happening in here in El Zonte in terms of surfing. And I'm kind of asking you guys, what do you think is happening in surfing lately? What's been on your mind? What have you guys been thinking about?
I don't know. Like, of course, like influx of tourism. Like, there's like a governmental ban on surfing. So of course, like I think like everyone's seen like something of Surf City and El Salvador, like all over. So yeah, a lot of development, a lot of change in the past, 4 or 5 years. So yeah.
I mean, that's pretty wild. You just said that the government is involved in surfing. I don't know of too many governments that get involved in surfing. And I mean, well, it's called Surf City, right? And they're heavily promoting surfing in this country for tourism. They've held how many contests here? The WSL did a contest at Punta Roca last year. We've got ASP, or no, what is it? The other juniors.
The ISA.
The ISA is doing their contests here. Multiple contests, longboards, kids.
I know who wants to be in the podcast too, that guy.
Oh yeah, that guy's definitely going to join the podcast. So what do you think about all that, Pablo? Do you think that's what else is happening in other than just like Surf City?
There's a lot of people surfing all around the world. A lot more people in the water.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that here in El Salvador for sure.
It's growing rapidly, for sure. And funky boards as well. I recently got into twin fins, retro boards. I used to ride the typical knifey boards, and I'm just like learning about all of these other shapes and sizes and fins, and it's awesome, man. I love it.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy. When I first moved down here, it was really kind of rare to see anybody riding a weirder board. I mean, you guys have Puro Surf Academy here, and that really is focused on high-performance surfing on a thruster, which is not what this event's about. And I think you're starting to see a little bit of a change. I mean, I think Pablo's, picking up on that tip.
I think it's like a generalized shift in surf culture. Like, maybe like El Salvador is like an example, but I think like in general, people are like more open to weirder boards. They're kind of making a comeback. I think album and like all the weird kind of like are making like a big dent on it. And yeah, it's like weird how like for a while I think like thruster guys would like ditch on like alternative people, and now I feel like it's the other way around.
Yeah, I think you're totally right about that.
I mean, surfing's about having fun, right? And
that's why I do it for sure.
And all of these different boards, fun boards, weird boards, kind of change your chip when you're out there in the water, and as opposed to thinking on your next maneuver and or barrel or smashing the lip or making something critical, you're more like just drawing lines and enjoying the feeling of riding the wave, and
yeah, I definitely think that's the case. And actually, I think it's really cool to like be on a weird board and then take out your thruster again, because your thruster feels like so easy to surf all of a sudden. At least that's the way it feels for me.
I don't know. I feel like for me it's like a change in like your like balance center. I think like that's how I see it. Like
Oh wow,
for me it's like
that's
okay,
deep,
like
Pollo. Dropping the knowledge. Let's get into it. What do you mean?
yeah, I feel like with thrusters you kind of have like a placement where you're kind of like I don't know, like for me like really like center, and then like on like a more mid length you go more forward. On like a fish you feel like you have to be like more crouched because then you like you just get out. So I feel like for me like the change like it takes me a while. Like I can do like a day with the two boards. I can't. I have
can't
to be
do
like
it?
no.
What about you, Pablo? Can you do that? Does it feel weird to you too?
I like what you said, Pollo. It's true. Like how different you ride each board, and I agree. To me, I think that riding twin fins and weird shaped boards actually helped me be a better high performance surfer, just because it brought me back to like the basics of like a proper round bottom turn
Yeah.
into your maneuver up in the face of the wave. So I really enjoy like hopping back and forth from a twin or a retro board back into my high performance, because I feel like on a high performance I can just like V bottom turn and go straight up and do all of these maneuvers a lot quicker, whereas on a twin fin, like you said, Pollo, it kind of skids out. So you have to draw the line, get lower on your board, and you know that's at least one of my problems. I'm never.
sure.
I
It's
need
like
to
a fundamentals thing.
I need to
Once
get lower.
Yeah. If you stick to the fundamentals on those weirder boards, you can surf them. And then when you go back onto a thruster, it's like, oh, like you can surf it differently and better. Like your bottom turns on a thruster after surfing a twin fin look so much better. I think, at least.
Oh yeah, I feel like, and I happened the other day. I was like kind of locked in. I was like, oh, like I can't get like this carb to work. And then I got in a twin fin that has more release. And then the next time I got in a thruster, it felt better. So it's kind of like a weird, yeah, like how one helps the other and like all the way around.
All right, we've been talking about weird boards, and we've been talking about why we're doing this event and stuff. But really, what we've been getting into on this Talk Story podcast lately is it's an investigation of surfing. And I really have found, especially traveling around and talking to people who grew up surfing different areas, that it's not the same for everybody, And so, when I was doing it back in Miami, we were asking a lot of questions and we were getting a lot of Miami-based answers. And then as I talked to more and more people, not on the podcast, I was like, oh, it's not like that everywhere. And so the questions now are really like this investigation. Like, what's surfing like where you guys are from? You guys grew up in Salvador, so what was it like growing up here and surfing?
Do you want to take this, Pollo?
I think I started surfing later than you.
Yeah, surfing here. Wow, it's been 17 years for me, and it's changed a lot. Back in the day in El Salvador, going to
Pipeline
was a different experience. There was a handful of locals, pretty aggro crowd, and is this better? Okay. Yeah. Anyways, I was saying it was a lot of angry crowds, angry locals, and so that's how you started surfing, and that's why a lot of people from my generation didn't actually get into surfing, because people were intimidated, people were afraid, people had to make their way up the lineup, essentially, never at the peak, and it was a patience game, But so
Put
unless
the time in, right?
you had to put the time in, actually years in, decades in.
And I think that there's only a few people that can call themselves like second generation surfers, so very few.
Oh, that's a whole other thing, huh? I mean,
Absolutely, and
whose dad surfed?
So
Whose mom
unless-
surfed? Not too many, right?
a few, but a handful, and not many actually, and so yeah, no, it was definitely. It felt nice once you actually were able to surf at the peak and catch waves, because at that point you clearly knew all the locals, you were clearly a better surfer, and yeah, no, not crowds were absolutely zero. I mean, I think I surfed this break, Baila Libertad, over 5 years with not a single person out. Maybe Pollo was there. And a few of our buddies, but it was really cool. So it's changing a lot right now.
Yeah, we've seen that a lot. especially from the older guys, when they come on to the podcast in Miami, they were like, oh, you guys have got it easy. You don't know how violent it used to be. Like you'd come out of the water after being thrown out of the water, like physically in some cases, and then your car would be smashed up. I mean, getting your windshield waxed was like, oh, that was nice of them. Like you'd show up and you're...
Are you talking about Florida or El Salvador?
Florida, and even guys from like California.
El Salvador was the same thing.
Really?
They would pinch your tires, break your windows. Sometimes you get out of our buddy of ours, Juan, he came out of the water and his window was smashed and he got robbed, nothing left in the car. He got his computer. He was ready to go to work. He couldn't go to work that day. Yeah, the typical story.
What was that, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago or something like that?
I would say 10 years ago. Yeah.
Wow, it's changed a lot. So 10 years ago, people were getting their windshields smashed there, and now there's a WSL contest. I mean, that's a huge change for this country, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, there was the COVID influx, right? But before that, I mean, was there more people surfing prior to COVID, or was it really like a post-COVID kind of thing now?
I think there's like a statistic, right? Like how people like learn to surf during COVID just because now they moved to like a beach or something. I think definitely more, and like the crowd changed for sure. I think like since what Paulo says, like the surfers that came here is because they really wanted to surf. Like it was raw, violent, like dangerous. So if you actually like really like the wave, then you came. Now it's not the same. Now everyone comes with like, oh, like it's friendly, like whatever. So you kind of get a different crowd in the water too, like just from that.
So what's the surf culture like in El Salvador? How would you describe that?
I mean, it's changed a lot from back in the day. Like you said, after COVID, there was definitely a big push, particularly now with the WSL, of course, because whenever it's a live stream of the WSL, you got the whole world watching, and then they see El Salvador and they see the quality of wave. Even though last year the conditions weren't that.
They had 4 hours of good.
Yes, exactly. Out of the entire 2 weeks, But that definitely had a big push, a big influence in people coming over. I think it's switching to more of like a beach vibe. It's not just core surfing. People who are core surfers, no matter whether it's dangerous or not, they will come. It's switching to more like now it's a safe country. Lots of new spots opening up, restaurants, bars, hotel, hostels, RV parkings. Just about anything is popping up. And so there's more people coming over. There's more activities to do. There's lakes, volcanoes, coffee experiences, waterfalls all over the place.
I mean, yeah, it is a beautiful country.
Consistency of waves.
What about the culture, though? Like, what was hardcore? Like, I know that there's localism, there is violence, but, like, amongst just your buddies, if you were going to go surfing, like, was there, like, a surf party? Or did you, like, make your own surf party? Would you guys listen to punk? Would you listen to rap? Like, what was the scene?
I think, for me, this is my experience of it, like, growing up, like, I think
Pipeline.
for me, it's my reference of, like, going somewhere to surf and, like, having, like a surf town.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you got there, it was, like, a lot of, like, backpackers. That, for me, is, like, my reference of, like, okay, like, a lot of backpackers traveling through Central America, and that was more of the crowd, and some of them surf, but not, like, a surf culture.
I mean, there was that place that had that skate ramp right there.
There was a lot of ska, reggae. There was a lot of Bob Marley, a lot of punk as well. Yeah. In terms of music?
I don't know, like when I think about surf culture, it's music and boards and clothes and like a whole attitude that comes with it.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, if you ask the locals, like all their like influence of surf culture was like brought from Australians or American that gave them their clothes or like their things. That's kind of how it started. I don't know if there was a surf culture.
I mean, like Ataraya is kind of like sublime-ish, right? It's
sure,
like
yeah.
Punk, reggae,
ska, punk. That was the music you would listen to whenever you would come down here. You would drink the big regias, las regias cholas.
Uh-huh.
You would drink those, and you would kind of make your own party. You would go to like one of the 2 spots that were available to go to, and just kind of drink beers after your surf sesh.
Super roots.
Very roots. There was
Roots.
actually a place
Actually, that
called
was
Roots.
the cool.
Pollo knows a lot about roots.
That's sick. So it's changed a lot, you know. Like I've been here for just a little while, and I've seen a big change. I mean, I'm part of that change, I guess, right? What about diversity in the scene? Oh, you're gonna say something. What are you gonna say, Pollo?
I was gonna say the roads. There was not a single cement concrete road. It was all dirt roads, lots of palapas, 2 spots to go and order breakfast maybe, or a plate of the day is what they call them here, plato del día, which it's either chicken rice and a salad or beef rice and a salad, you know?
Or fish.
Or fish. And then apart from that, not much. In terms of boards, they were all very knifey, like narrow, skinny, knifey boards, like the typical Andy Iron board
Huh?
for pipeline and stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, you guys were saying the culture was so influenced by that kind of stuff, so I imagine that the boards are very much like that too.
Just like I remember, like when I started surfing, like now, like of course, Puro Surf and like all the surf schools, every beach has a surf school. So there, it's like your friends took you, you got a beating your first time, you got the shittest board, like not fit to learn. So it's like there was no rules.
You were scared to go into the lineup, particularly in well, for me, 2 spots were really hard to get into. Was a
Pipeline.
for one, and
Pipeline. Pipeline.
that was another really aggro crowd. You would get yelled at, you would get insulted, you would probably get pushed, kicked out of the water, or beat up. You know.
That's pretty much my experience. So yeah. It's just
Good
funny.
times though. I loved it. I wouldn't change it for anything.
I know what you mean, you know, and you know, localism comes up a lot in this podcast, and there's always a big difference in opinion on it. And I mean, after talking to so many people and experiencing it myself, I think it's a necessary evil.
Like what they're doing in France.
No.
They were like, I think like they're like designated people in the lineup that kind of like read the crowd and tell you like, hey, you shouldn't belong here, and it's like designated by everyone. So it's like special people that are like, no, you shouldn't be here. You go over there. I think it's like still kind of like fair. Like you can see it. It's like dangerous. at the end of the day.
So you have the opposite in California, where you actually get in trouble. You can lose your job. You can. There's a lot of restrictions against localism.
Like the times
Pipeline.
call the police. Like,
Yes,
That's
very,
a huge change, right?
That's very new. Very new. Actually, it hasn't even been a year since this stuff started happening.
Yeah, so what these guys are referencing is someone did something stupid in the lineup. The locals reacted the way they always would. And when they get into the land, there's police waiting for them. I mean, that's pretty much the story, right? I mean, that's like California style. And I don't know, like, it seems kind of strange to me. And it seems like maybe like the police should kind of like take a step back from that. I mean, obviously you don't want to like kill somebody, and you like stealing someone's stuff is not cool, but there needs to be some respect shown in the lineup, or else, like you're saying, it gets dangerous. And people put in their time. There's only so many ways to go around, right?
Yeah, it's tricky. It's very bittersweet.
I just want at a point, like, remember that we had like an exception rule in El Salvador. So actually getting the police and getting thrown through jail is like a big deal. It's not like, oh, I'm getting out tomorrow. So you get like shit scared if you get the police on you. So,
Yeah.
like, of course, it makes a difference.
Well, yeah, there's a lot happening here, you know, socially and politically, that has changed the rules a lot.
No, and then on one end, you want some sort of rules and regulations in terms of like surfing and respecting the history of surfing and localism, because it comes back from Hawaii in its origins, essentially. But then you also want people to be able to catch waves, and you definitely want everybody to be safe. So, I mean, yeah, we'll see what somebody's gonna come up with something, I guess.
I mean, I don't think anyone's come up with anything. This new rule in France they're talking about is, I mean, there used to be guys called the Black Shorts, and they ruled Hawaii. And those were the guys that no one messed with, because they realized like that was kind of like the underground police for the water. And you need some law and order out there. You really do. Because, you know, when it's firing and it's big and you're dropping into a wave and someone's coming over the shoulder on top of you, I mean, they could kill you. Like, legit. And that shit can happen, and you should be absolutely thrown out of the water for doing some shit like that.
Yeah, definitely learning proper surf etiquette is extremely important when the waves are pumping and heavy. The surfer on the wave can't be like looking out for everything that's happening around him. He's already kind of surfing the wave. Maybe there's strong offshore, so he can't really see anything. Like people paddling around need to know how to protect themselves and keep the surfer as well safe, because you can hop off your board and kind of just leave it out there, and then it's a hazard for the surfer. And but then if you just paddle straight and he's coming your way and you don't do anything, he can run you over. So it puts you in a dangerous situation. So it's very important to people to know how to handle their way around the lineup, you know?
Yeah, there's definitely an education necessary. One of the other things that I've noticed here a lot is that there's not as much respect in the lineup, especially when it comes to visiting surfers. Like, guys come in for 3 days, 5 days, or a week, and they try to pack in as many waves as they possibly can into that short amount of time. And by nature, they just become jerks, you know? Like, they feel like entitled to catch every wave that's out there. And I think that's probably a lot why there has been like a big pushback from locals, because it's like, who are you to think that you just own every wave here because you're on vacation for 5 days?
I think that going back to like how long the surf history in El Salvador is, like the fact is like at some lineups they don't even have like locals. It's like if you go to Indo too, like some spots you're like, well, the local is the guy that's been here for like 10 years because actually there was no one surfing before him. So I think like some spot that you, and like what you said, like you go in the water and you're like, well, I guess there's no one here to like put in line everyone. So like, what do you do? So I think like it's still like on that edge of like localism. How do you understand it? How does it play out in like one lineup versus the other?
Pipeline.
You can like, clearly see it like in the lineup.
Yeah. I think that the
Pipeline
actually works pretty well right now. There's a lineup which is pretty much for the guys that surfed it their whole lives, and there's a lineup for everybody else. And I'm happy to get waves that everybody else misses or doesn't want. I mean, they're still better than any wave I would get in Florida, so it's no problem for me. I'm stoked to watch you guys get the best waves from the top of the point. I'll sit on the shoulder all day long and cheer for you, and when you fall or give me a shitty closeout, I'm stoked. It's sick.
Yeah, no, I'm laughing because everything is so controversial. You know, there's always two sides, pros and cons. You know, and on one end, like you got people on a vacation trying to make the most out of their vacation, and yeah, I mean, we've all been on on a surf trip that you go to this spot and you catch an amazing wave, and it makes your trip. You know, and some people are definitely looking out for that, trying to catch that wave that'll make you remember your surf trip to El Salvador for the rest of your life. But then at the same time, there's disrespecting in the lineup. You know, some people go to Hawaii for a month, and during the first 3 weeks they can't catch a wave at pipe. You know,
First 3 weeks, first 3 years, first 3 decades.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've never been, but I've seen a lot of posts on Instagram saying like it's been a couple of weeks of me kind of just like navigating my way around the lineup, trying to catch a wave, and finally I was able to catch this one wave, and boom, the video comes out, you know, and it's this amazing wave. But this person had to play the patience game and the respect game and kind of like make their way up the lineup and then finally catch something really special, you know?
I mean, it's like that though. If you put in the time, you have the patience, and you're really working at it, it's like anything. Like if you put in the time and effort, that one time it actually comes through is like that much more special.
I think it's like surfing is like such like a dog-eat-dog sport. It's like if you compare like snowboarding or like skating, I think they're like all in all like more. They're like if you fall on like snowboarding, nobody's gonna notice. Nobody's seeing like, oh, he fell 3 times, like he can't.
If you fall under the chairlift, people definitely notice.
But here in the lineup, if you fall once, then people are like, oh, like he's kind of a cook. I'm not sure he's gonna get the other wave. So like you're reading other people's mistakes as well in the lineup.
Sure.
And you're like, okay, then it's my wave.
It's like you can't always get what you want, you know? Who wouldn't want to fly to Hawaii, catch a set wave at Pipeline? You know, you get what you need. So 2 weeks later, you catch this little wave.
So speaking of Hawaii, what is travel like for guys in El Salvador? Do people travel around the country a lot? Do they travel out of the country? What's been your experience and just like the vibe about that?
Not many people travel out of El Salvador for surfing, at least on something that you can't access by land. You know, so most surf trips here.
Your mic up?
So more surf trips here, like the ones we do, essentially, it's Nicaragua, which is 15-hour drive. You know, we all split the gas and shoot south, and or Mexico, the opposite but north. You know, it's expensive to plan a surf trip and you know and get out there. So I would say for the majority of surfers in El Salvador, those would be the surf trips you do. Nicaragua,
even in the
Guatemala,
country,
Mexico.
You don't see people moving around that much.
It's got good waves all over the place.
No, but like, I think like, just a reality. I think like if you're trying to compare like to surfers in like Australia, Brazil, like the U.S., like by the time they're 13, they're like been all over the world. Like, that's like I think like the most traveling surfer now is Brian, and I think he's like starting to travel. Like he's still like not accustomed to reef waves as much. He's like point breaks, so he's like starting to get the feel of it within doing the QS. So I think like yeah, of course, like I think like there's like of course a financial thing in El Salvador of like not many people can travel because it's like super expensive. Especially I think like going out of El Salvador is expensive. Like tickets to Costa Rica can be like 400. And you're like what the fuck? Like,
700 to yeah.
Yeah, that's actually kind of true, huh? So where do you guys think surfing's going? Like in this country, generally, what's the next thing in surfing?
The unknown.
I think it's like a free for all. Like just like with the return of like alternative boards. I think it's like go do what you want to do in the water. Like
What about pools?
I can't imagine a wave pool in El Salvador.
Oh, I could totally imagine.
Really? No,
Yeah,
just
I mean,
because the
With the government
consistency.
behind it so much, I'm surprised there isn't one
You're
already.
right. You're right. That could happen actually. I just the way I see it is that we're blessed with a lot of consistency and swell here. So I don't see the need. If you can just do it and it'll be just for fun, then yeah. But the need, I don't think we got the need. Like Texans, Texas.
Yeah, they definitely need it. And you know what's crazy? They have put wave pools in a lot of places that get great waves all the time. I mean, I've surfed in Typhoon Lagoon in Orlando in Disney World. It's not a great wave, but it's still a hell of a lot better than what we get most of the time in Florida. And still, we have no major wave pool in Florida.
yeah, I mean like I think like people like get to it like they do skateboarding. It's like okay, like I'm having the same section all the time, so I can like try things. So I think like that's
Oh,
some
yeah.
people are like
It's the
getting
same,
at it.
that consistency for training would be sick.
But I don't know, like it's like boards, maneuvers, waves. Like there's like a lot of where is it going? Yeah, I don't know. I think the people are gonna charge more, of course.
Yeah, I think the Grums are our future generations of surfing, the kids are already surfing so much better than what our generation or previous generations
And
to
even
ours.
better than us.
By a lot,
It's
by a lot.
crazy.
Yes,
We
it's
talked a lot about like training. It's like training like years ago. It's like nobody trained to surf.
no, and
I didn't even know you could train to surf.
influence as well. You know, there's a lot more surfers coming, a lot of more rippers. Then all of a sudden, for 2 weeks, we got the world's best
It's true.
surfing.
pipeline, pipeline, pipeline.
Every super sessions all over the coast, you know,
true.
and people get to watch that. We never had that opportunity, you know.
Yeah, so you had no idea what was even possible in the waves that you got.
So definitely the level of surfing, I can see it improving a whole lot. Maybe localism as well, because there's a lot more local surfers now.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll see. But then what Pollo said, I definitely see El Salvador like with a lot more board options, funky boards, performance boards, fins. Yeah.
You know, something you
Surf
said to me a
shops.
long time ago comes to mind. Have you guys like searched around for any weird waves? And he's like, if you had this in your backyard, would you go driving around? And I was like, oh yeah, I guess I'm right. But maybe as like crowds start to thicken, maybe you guys will start, you know, as a country, start looking around the corner for weird waves that maybe just right under your nose that you just never realized work only on this tide, on this swell direction, at this size, and things like this. I mean, there's always secret spots, right? But for the most part, my understanding is that people don't really look around too much.
You'll be forced to search, essentially, because you're gonna, at least myself, I know Pollo's the same way. We like surfing with lesser crowds, So as La Libertad and Oriente start like crowding up, people are gonna start having to search and drive to different spots looking for waves until they find their sweet spot, and are able to have fun with no people around.
I think we just did a podcast. I think we did it. Pollo from Tropical Freaks, thanks so much for joining us. Pablo, Hotel Michanti, stoked to have you guys on the podcast. First one from El Salvador. Talk story. That's a wrap from Pescaito Frito at Looking Good Surf Hotel. Join us next time as we get into more investigation of surfing. I think we're going to go surf a giant heat of everyone surfing on some weird boards. Catch you guys later. Peace.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, Brad.
Today's episode was brought to you by Brightbox, marketing for design, architecture, and hospitality. I'm AIM Capital, experts in revitalizing Miami's urban multifamily real estate. And Team Key Aquatics, fostering growth and excellence in aquatic sports.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Thank You Surfing Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment to stay updated and let us know your thoughts. Catch you next time, and keep surfing.